the Israelites. President Hakainde Hichilema banned the PF, banned this regalia, put stooges on it. This has helped Brian Mundwile and Makebi Zulu because there is no PF in sight. There is no PF regalia in sight. The two are looking as brand new, brand new. In fact, if President Hakainde Hichilema had let the PF stand as PF and any of their candidates on PF, probably they'll be having difficulties with the people of Zambia because they will have been carrying the excess baggage of the PF. Remember how they are trying to put the issues of the PF on Brian Mundwile and Makebi Zulu, of issues of debt, that they left a bad economy, that inflation. It's not sticking. Why? Because Brian and Makebi have new parties, Resolute Party and National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity, NRPUP. They are totally brand new thanks to President Hakainde Hichilema. What the brothers of Joseph meant for evil turned out to be for good. And Joseph, Hakainde Hichilema wanted the PF dead. The PF has died, and in its ashes, you can now not say these are PF people. It's just that story is just not sticking. If there is anyone who has done a proper rebranding for President Hakainde, for the PF, it is President Hakainde Hichilema. All his efforts to DF. So all your efforts to buy them, buy their MPs, it helped Brian and Makebi rise. The PF will not help you, Mr. President. The opposition is the people of Zambia. And this is what you have seen about the groundswell around these two candidates. Yes, a PF could be a catalyst, could be a base, but essentially it has become very easy for Zambians to associate themselves with Mundwile and not even attach him to the PF. They are attaching him to the PF for purposes of experience. That, look, he was a minister, he was a chief whip, and that the experience he has, he will bring it into the leadership of the presidency. So thanks to President Hakainde Hichilema, he has rebranded the Patriotic Front. He has rebranded these new leaders. You can't stick the story of the PF on them because you have your own Mausampa who's with you and he's speaking that he controls the PF, is the president. You have Robert Chabinga in UPND colors saying he controls the PF. So how will you put the PF when the people that control the PF are with you, Mr. President? That is a challenge that has occurred. Let me go to some issues that have occurred. Xavier Chungu, Liberal Democrat Party leader, remains incarcerated. This is an unfair matter. Xavier Chungu should be campaigning out there. Xavier Chungu must be trying his luck out there. It's unfair that he remains incarcerated. And Mr. President, this is a blot on the reports that will emerge whether you ran credible, free and fair elections. Mr. President, I would beg that Xavier Chungu must be released. I know his supporters will say it's not up to the president, but we know the hand of the president in matters like this. Allow Xavier Chungu to be free. He's a presidential candidate. Allow him to succeed or fail on his own. Let it be. Let it not be on your hand. At Umtomolo ceremony the other week, Chief Mumporokoso was badly beaten by bodyguards of the president. Chief Mumporokoso is a very big Bemba chief who is found in the Mporokoso area. You know, that's an area, every time for you who know our history as Bembas, wherever we went, we left a Bemba chief. We even have chiefs like Chivale and others who are Bemba chiefs in Eastern Province. Of course, now they preside over Nsengas, Ngonis and others. But wherever we went, we conquered, we left someone as a chief. Mporokoso was chief among the Lungus. That's an area. You know, Felix Mtati's Lungu comes from that area. There are Lungus, but you have Bembas in that area, and they are headed by Chief Mumporokoso. So if you saw among Visa area when we came to Mpika, Chinsali, we left Bemba chiefs among the, so you'll have Visa chiefs and you'll have Bemba chiefs. That's a history. Mporokoso is a chief among the Tabo, among the Lungu, but is a Bemba chief in that area. And he had come on the Umtomolo ceremony in Mbala, where the vice president was a guest of honor. And for one reason or another, where he was seated, he was passing and passed near the vice president. I don't know how those bodyguards to the vice president, his security detail, roughed him up and beat him up. The Capasos, the messengers tried to tell this security chief that this is a chief. But they beat him up and threw him out. What is sad is up to now there is no formal apology from government. Government must apologize to the Bemba Royal establishment. They must apologize to Paramount Chief Chitimukulu. They must not make a secret call. This was humiliation and embarrassment of the highest order. It's become an insult on the Bemba people. Wamayo ba Whitney Kangwa Mutalena Lumango na mita mashina yenu yonse mayo muri mfumu muri ntungulushi. You will need to apologize. You will need to apologize to what happened at the ceremony where Chief Mporokoso of Mporokoso people of Mporokoso district was humiliated and beaten, not just pushed around, beaten. You need to apologize and ameliorate for that. We've had an unfortunate incident in Kaputa where Kweshangonga, his other name's Humphrey Luisha, was killed when the two groups, NRPUP and the UPND, clashed at an area called Pump House. Pump House is a bar near, I think, where the power works for waterworks were done in Kaputa. Kaputa district has a new waterworks and water reticulation, a process that was done by Tomorrow Investment. My dear brother Chanda Katotowe, he did good works there. So there's a place called Pump House. I think that's where the pump houses are. So there's a bar nearby. So you from NRPUP drinking, because there's a very popular candidate that Brian Munduwile's candidate has in Kaputa, who has shifted the grounds. Because remember, Kaputa has a very effective campaigner, Elvis Nkando. And then remember, the vice president comes from the area. For them, it's very personal. And then they have this candidate who has shifted the ground from these two major forces of the UPND. And so they've resorted to violence and they came and attacked the group. For one reason or another, Kweshangonga was hit on the head and he died. This is an unfortunate death. The ECZ have suspended campaigns. Many people have welcomed that. But you know what has destroyed the credibility of ECZ? Is because they've done nothing. For example, where independent MP Confucius Mwene's driver, Stanley Sakala, was murdered in the most gruesome way. Someone came into the chalet, just held him by the mouth and slit his throat. They thought they had killed Confucius Mwene. And Confucius Mwene, in media statement, he says he made a drastic decision at the last minute to change with his driver where to sleep. He probably had a premonition that he might be attacked. I don't know. But they changed the chalets at the last minute. And someone came and slit the throat of whoever was on the bed, thinking they had taken the life of the independent MP, Confucius Mwene. But instead, they killed the driver, an innocent young man, Stanley Sakala. And ECZ is very quiet. There's no other candidate other than the candidate of the UPND and the independent MP. So this is where ECZ are being asked. We saw violence in Chawama, where UPND attacked Brian Mundwile's convoy. You instead arrested Brian Mundwile's security detail. You've never arrested the UPND. And ECZ have never done anything. We saw that wave of violence from Mazabuka, where they tried to prevent Gary Nkombo from filing. We saw the attacks on independent supporters in Monze, in Choma. We saw in Zambezi, Chavuma, in Solwezi. The ECZ have been very quiet. Why have they taken this decision for Kaputa alone? And that's not the only place where someone has died. May the soul of Kwesha Ngonga, and also known as Humphrey Luishe, rest in eternal peace. He was a UPND member, Elvis Nkando's person. But clearly, if you even investigate the matter, although they've arrested 10 NRPUP members, the people that began the violence were the UPND. They're the one that came to the pump house and caused that violence. The murder here in Gwembe. What are you doing about it? So ECZ's action now seems to be trying to save the face of Elvis Nkando and the Vice President, Whitney Kangwa Mtalena Lumango, WK Mtalena Lumango. There was an issue that she was going to be in Luapula province at the same time that Brian and Makebi Zulu's team would be in Luapula. Lucky enough, change of mind, and it's very good that government either listened or responded to the concerns. Mtalena Lumango, beginning today, is in Muchinga province, where Brian Mundwile and Makebi Zulu have already been. So this has helped a lot to reduce the tension, because the ECZ calendar has placed, after Mporokoso and Kaputa, Brian Mundwile is supposed to begin the leg for Mansa, for Luapula province. And if the vice president was going to be in the same area for the same duration, clearly they were